recording. And then maybe I'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and get up on Facebook.
What's the order again? Remind me.
I'm gonna go, and then María-Elisa with Cary, and then you with Donna.
Perfect. That's making sure. Hi, Cary and Patrick.
Hi.
And
Hi, Janice.
and
So good to see you.
It's
I'm
like
gonna go ahead and
hard
start
for me to
syncing us
visit
to Facebook.
usual.
Oh, shit.
I also switched my glass, so it's not transparent.
Clever.
Okay, it's about to start live streaming in a minute, so just so y'all know.
Yeah, get all the coughing out now.
It's dangerous to cough these days.
I know.
Okay, I think we're live. I feel like I say this a lot these days, but oh wait, no, I have to hit go live. Okay. Okay, I'm going live. Go live anyway. Aaron, if in a second, if you could verify that we are live, and I'm gonna go ahead and do some screen sharing.
We're live.
Cool.
Is everyone wearing real pants underneath? all of this?
I'll never tell.
Yep.
We could just have people guess what we're wearing below.
I think everyone heard that too.
Good.
Yeah, we're live, so it's fine.
What time? We got about another minute and then we'll get started.
You should play a
But
game.
we are, Aaron, you did confirm we're live, right?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
We can put the first question to the commenters. Do you refer to it as Donald Duck in it or Porky Pig in it? I'm not doing either one of those things.
Trying to think of what Porky Pig does.
Oh,
I
he
know
doesn't wear
Donald
pants.
doesn't
That's
He
for
doesn't wear
sure.
pants, that's all.
Let's talk about what he doesn't do.
Mhm.
Okay, do you think we should get started? Okay,
Okay.
awesome. Well, thank you everyone out there in Facebook world for joining us. Patrick asked one of our artists that I'll introduce in a moment, asked a great question a few minutes ago of what was the world seeing while we did this? And I really don't know the answer to that. I hope you're seeing images and you're about to start hearing from our artists, but please, if anything tech-wise goes wrong, if you could let us know through the Facebook chat, that'd be great. So we're gonna do this very similar to last week. We have 3 artists with us tonight. We also have a guest crit on board, María-Elisa Hegg, who's the Curatorial Fellow at Houston Center for Contemporary.
Live, right?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live. Awesome. Have a guest crit on board, María-Elisa Hegg, who's the Curatorial Fellow. I'm hearing myself.
Hi.
How did that, okay. See, these are one of those technological wonders. I felt like I was in my head there a minute. So we have María-Elisa with us. Welcome, María-Elisa.
Thanks for having me.
Here. So we're excited to have you. And this is something I think we're probably going to start doing in some fashion if we keep these going, is inviting a guest crit to come on board. So we'd love to be hearing from y'all if there's anyone you think would be good to jump in with us. So that being said, we're going to kick it off 20 minutes per artist. And then we actually have Aaron Carty, who works at Art League with us, a communications and programs associate, who's watching the Facebook live stream. So if you have a question for an artist or a comment, please put it there and we'll ask at the end of that artist. It'd be a little helpful with some of the questions if you could put the artist's name, like who it's for. That way if we need to backtrack later on. So please do that. Okay, well, I'm going to kick us off here. And our first artist is Patrick Turk. And Patrick is an artist here in Houston, Texas. And I put a little link to his website down there if you're interested in checking that out, as well as his Instagram. So please go take a look there. And Patrick, why don't you just start off kind of talking about the work you submitted, what you've been doing, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, all right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for checking in. So the work in the picture, I'm kind of right now working on two separate bodies of work at the same time. The pieces that are pictured right now have to do with this thing I found online called the anthropocosmic vision, which kind of basically sees the cosmos as an organic entity which humans coexist harmoniously with nature. And so the pictures are, the art is like lots of botanicals and nature illustrations and anatomy and just kind of like humans coexisting with nature in a mutually reciprocal way. These pieces are like this kind of three-dimensional collage style that I started doing a few years ago. These are kind of bigger than what I'm usually used to making. They're about like that one is about 6 feet tall by 4 feet wide or something. So that's kind of what this body of work is for. This is going into a show which has been postponed, but will still happen hopefully in Dallas whenever Corona's over. So that's about that. And this is, so those last pieces that we were looking at, I've been working on for, I'm on like the third one, but I've been working on them for like almost 2 years. They're really slow going and hard to work on, and they take a long time. And so I kind of needed a break a while back. So I started making these baby collages. And what they are is I found a book a few years ago called, it's just called Baby. And it's all of these Indian baby posters from the 60s and 70s. That's all the book is. And I had like a dozen copies of it, and they've just been sitting around. And so this is kind of like, what do I do with my free time? I make more art. So, you know, that's kind of what this is for me. But I started off not really knowing what I was going to do, but now I've got like 16 of them done, and I'm really into it. So I'm just going to keep making them until I run out of baby posters.
I threw this in there, Patrick, because I wanted people, I love your Corona nightclub posts you've been doing. So
it's in Houston, apparently, on Chimney Rock. So
hey, yeah, please do go check these out. And I think they're pretty cool. And that's actually one of the images you submitted. So yeah. Well, one question I have for you when I was looking at these, how are you determining as far as the genesis of like the materials you're using, going from books or you know, the scrap, the paper, to creating these pieces? How are you determining what forms a 2D versus a 3D piece in your mind?
Right. So like with these baby collages, it's like, this is just kind of like sketching or drawing for me, because I don't sketch or paint or draw really, like I just do collage. So that's kind of what I was thinking of these as initially, is just like something that I could do that's kind of loose and fast and fun and doesn't take like hundreds and hundreds of hours to make one piece. And so that's kind of like, that's what I was looking for when I started this series, was just that, like something that is not super complicated and difficult for me to make. So it's like a break kind of.
Pieces like this that.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are a little more time consuming. So
like,
yeah.
do you call them babies because they're small? Because I know like some of your other pieces are more monsters. Like
yeah. I mean, yeah, and the baby poster is probably like all the babies in it are probably like under 5 years old. And also I kind of think that the babies are funny. I think like in real life, babies are generally in some kind of altered state of existence until they're like 3 years old or something. And so just to have all these babies kind of flipping out, getting weird is just kind of funny, you know, little humor.
Yeah, I kind of look at these pieces, to me, this is like the Patrick Turk beginner's guide. You can look at these and then you can jump into like Uncle Roscoe type.
Right.
You kind of need these as an entry point.
Yeah, they're a lot more easy to digest than some of the like larger installation work and sculptures and things, for sure.
I'm curious about your reproduction method. You know, you clearly been making copies of the graphics you've sourced from these books. Do you just have like a color printer or copier that you use at home? Do you have a special method? And also sort of tagged onto that question, are you interested in the change between the original subject matter that you're sourcing from and how it ends up getting replicated in your process?
Right. Well, so actually I don't copy anything ever. It's all source material.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. So I have a dozen of those baby books.
Oh.
And then actually I was working on one of the babies and I didn't have enough like elements that I needed to finish it. So I got a few more. So now I have from 12 to 16 baby books.
Where did you find them, if I can ask?
Oh, I initially found them at half price. I don't think they're there anymore, but you can still get them online and things. So yeah, but to your question about the printing quality and like the changes is like, it is interesting because probably most people would never know this, but like there can be like some slight color variations and printing quality variations inside of the same title of a book. So I do like that when that happens, but it's not the normal thing. It might be a fun thing to explore if I ever did start copying things, would be like the degradation of the source image. But for now, it's all source material.
Patrick, I have to say, like, I'm loving the baby images. And I think there's just even to the repetition and the visuals that you're creating, the composition, there's a really sophisticated manner to it. I know these sculptural pieces are more intense, but like, man, when I see your 2D sculptural pieces, that's when I like, yeah, those are good. Like really, yeah. I know they're extremely intense in their creation and production, just how long it takes. But I can't help but want to keep seeing those.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep making them. It's just, I think, I mean, it's definitely the direction that like my work just kind of keeps going in. I think just every once in a while, I'm going to have to like do, like, again, what do artists do with their free time? Make more art. So it's just kind of fun to get my head out of something like this and work on those babies. You know, they take like 20 or 30 hours. These things are like hundreds. I don't even know anymore. Like,
oh my God.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that for me was really interesting to see what you're posting now and making work that's like a little quicker, because I remember during your residency at Lawndale, you made two works over the course of 9 months. And it was like, it wasn't like you were casually making them. You were there every night, hours. Like your eyes would take on a certain twinkle at a certain hour of the evening. And it's nice to be able to see like how this has been, even though we're all kind of slow now, like you're figuring out how to be faster in your process.
Yeah, it's been kind of fun because it's always been a challenge for me to make faster, looser work that I just kind of can get through it and call it finished. I kind of labor over things and dote on them. And so yeah, I'm pretty excited about this as well, because they are like, just, I can work on them and there's a definite finished point, and then I can put them down and start on the next one. So it's fun.
Patrick, that brings me to a question I do have, because I think this is something a lot of artists sometimes hit when they're working with more meticulous and just intense pieces. I mean, what have you ever battled with that of like, why am I doing this? Should I approach this differently? I mean, and I'm not thinking about the baby pieces. I mean, you've already said those are kind of your processing right now, kind of your way of quick sketches and things, even though they still take a day easily.
Right.
Have you ever considered like, do I need to do something different, or am I going to have to change my process down the road just because of this way?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think all the time, why am I doing this? These things kind of have a way of, they kind of start taking over your life in a way, like, you know, they fill up your home and your studio, and they're hard to move, and it's hard to get people to want them because they're just so big. But I don't know. I've kind of had this like conscious idea in the past of like, I'm not going to keep making any more big work, or I'm not going to keep making installations or whatever. It's just that I just can't help myself. It just always comes back to bigger stuff. It's just, I don't know. There's a kind of a funness to exploring making really small, tight, detailed works, and then there's a whole different aspect of making big, really complicated works where, you know, like with the babies, I can get a picture of what I'm going to do playing with those elements in just a few minutes, or, you know, maybe couple of hours or something. You know, I chop those baby posters up, and then I look at the pieces that I have and I arrange them. But with these big pieces, you know, it can change 100% from like the day that I started to the day that it's finished. And that's really kind of a fun thing, just being able to react to the piece and the kind of natural changes that it goes through in the course of making it, because it takes so long. And just because like there is time for those things, you know, you just have time to let it build and build.
María-Elisa, please, you take the question, but I'm going to move ahead, Patrick, because I do have some, real quick, Patrick has a show up at the Art Museum of Southeast Texas. So shout out to EMSET and Patrick and Mariah Rockefeller, their curator, that I think is probably watching. Hopefully we'll all get to see it at some point, but I do have some images here. So María-Elisa, I'm going to go through those too, but keep on with your question.
Oh yeah, well, I was just curious about, you know, the babies being this sort of separate body of work that you're using as an exercise in fluidity. Do you see them though forming the basis of any of your larger, more realized pieces, or do you kind of see them being their own track? And if so, how would you envision them being presented to viewers?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I kind of see them as their own separate thing. You know, it would be really interesting to like take that idea and scale it up in some way, but I think that I burn myself out on making really big 2D works. And so I think in my mind, if I'm thinking about making something big, it almost like has to be 3-dimensional. So, you know, those babies would be really hard to make 3-dimensional because the books are like really tiny. They're like 6 by 6 inches. Whereas like for those larger sculpture pieces that I'm making, I'm using like really big books, and some of those images are like 12 by 12 inches, just the images, you know, so it's big pieces. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, I do think of them as sketches, but I don't think of them as something that may become like a larger thing sometime in the future.
It would be interesting to replicate them at the size of the books that you bought. I didn't realize they were that small either. Like that's a really tiny little book.
Yeah, it's a little, you know, little guy.
Like it would almost be you would be regurgitating the entirety of the contents into a new volume, but it's got the same content essentially.
Yeah. And I mean, the collages are 9 by 12. They're not much bigger, but it would be interesting to see, like, that's just another constraint to put on it, you know, like, let's see how long this goes on for.
Well, it definitely makes me curious to know more about you know, the provenance of this material. Was it a school textbook? Was it, you know, educational, entertainment? You know, it makes me curious to know what it was meant to convey or what the book was about.
Yeah. I think originally a lot of it really was educational, but like the books that I'm using are not they're kind of like compendiums of source materials. So they're not like original titles. They're more like collections of types of artwork. Yeah.
That was, Patrick, a question that someone did have that kind of relates in terms of like material and content. Sabine, I think we have help asking, but this was where I was hoping to go to, about question about the babies. I'm interested in the source material. As a media maker, I'm interested in the original reason these were produced and how and why the meaning is rewritten in your work. The source material is very coded already. So I feel like with like these babies, for example, do they lead you to make certain types of work, like the content and then the final work?
Well, so to get to the question of the original intent of these posters is like, and so I have not been to India and I don't know this, but in the text portion of the book, it explains that like in India, there's this kind of form of like baby worship almost. And so they would just kind of sell these baby posters in like markets or roadside stands or someplace like that. And they would all, you know, all of them are like baby doctors, baby scientists, you know, babies being friends. It's so that's the original like intent of these. What I'm trying to do with them is more just see, I mean, like basically I'm just chopping these images up and reconfiguring them into something new and different. And so that's kind of all, that's my interest in this, is seeing like how much variation I can get on basically cutting up 12 images over and over again and putting them back together into something new. Is that?
No. So I guess like in a way, for me, at least the way I see it with your work is that the content is there, but rather than dealing with the degradation of the image through reproduction of it, it's like almost the degradation of the subject, if I'm not reading into it, through the way that you've manipulated multiple versions of the original source.
Yeah. I mean, the original is completely destroyed in most cases. And that's kind of like something I like to try to do, is just kind of remove all of the original like context and meaning out of the images. And also like, you know, people ask me a lot about copyright issues and things, that I'm like, but the image is so destroyed. There's like nothing left of the original image really. Just these kind of elements. So, yeah.
Patrick, I want to ask you real quick, looking at this group that is on view at AMSET, and then also looking at the images and like the pieces hanging behind you in your studio, what is guiding your decision to go with a more geometric and more, whereas it, like the ones behind you have a much more organic feel, more almost like being type feel, in contrast to what we're looking at here? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's kind of like the like what we're looking at right now with the pentagons. There's kind of a couple of things that are driving that decision. When I started this series, I was basing a lot of the series around this one particular book that I had 5 copies of, and I couldn't get more of them. And so I'm like, okay, what can I do with 5 of something? You know, it's the same as with the babies. What can I do with 12 of something? What can I do with 5? But then, you know, with these kinds of like larger projects, like what we're looking at, I'll also start looking up like things like numerology and like, what does 5 represent, you know? And so these pieces that are up right now are from the series of work that I did, that's all based on Genesis from the Old Testament. And so like in like the Bible, like there's numerological connections, the number 5 that kind of represents like man and woman, and like, I don't know, I don't want to get too into numerology, I'm not an expert, but like, so there's kind of these practical things that happen, and then there's also these kinds of things that I start researching and looking up to like what is the story I'm trying to build or make out of this, you know? So,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the smaller works too, but these three-dimensional, I think you're on, even if it takes you a year.
Yeah.
I think that would be where I see. Like,
Yeah,
really
you know, and I
work.
think artists have to make, you know, you got to try stuff out, and you have to give
For
yourself
sure.
room to have some fun sometimes, and to, you know, just figure things out, you know, learn.
Can I ask a question?
Before we flip it over to Facebook, do Cary or Donna have anything they want to chime in on?
I have a question.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was also like wondering, I think I was just like skimming over some of your older work, and you were saying you're like interested in how these things relate with like time, these collages, and I was wondering if you had ever like made these into like paper stop motion videos, or like, I don't know if they've ever like been related into a different medium, or maybe an animation. Or it also makes me think of this artist Jess Johnson, who does like, has these VR environments with like very repetitive symmetrical like things that happen too. So yeah.
No, I've thought about that for a long time, like at the very least doing like time lapse or something. I haven't ever tried to, but it seems like now the technology keeps getting easier and easier, so it might be a good time, because I think you would definitely have to look at this as like a time-lapse thing for it to be interesting, because I think otherwise watching me work in any way would be really boring. Like, or maybe really meditative. I don't know, but yeah, I think that I like the idea of changing it into some other kind of media, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, I just think I could see these as like a short paper cutout animation or something, like might be interesting to play around with.
Let's talk about it,
point.
because you probably know more about that than I do. So I'm totally down to like look into things like that and investigate, you know?
It's true. You're basically working with all the component parts you need. I mean, if you have any sequential images that you use, then you can photograph them individually and craft that. Actually, I really like that idea a lot. Like I'm looking at this image and thinking about the dimensionality, having motion as well, and how that would maybe play into that experience of, you're kind of reaching for the eternal, you're reaching for numerology. There's some sort of ritualistic aspect that you're kind of reaching for and acting with the combination of images you're using.
Yeah, no, I love that idea too. I think that would be a really fun thing to do. It's just something to figure out. I haven't really had a lot of free time in a while to experiment with work, except for just recently, making babies. But but yeah, no, I think that's a really cool idea, and I would love to, like, if anybody knows how to do that kind of thing specifically, like, holler at me and see if we can do something. It'd be fun.
Cary, do you have anything you want to chime in with?
I just really love the dimensional works, the big dimensional works that you're doing. And I agree it would be neat if you could find a way to make them not take 100 hours to do. So
right. I think studio assistance is the only way out of that. Which
we need to get a grant for studio assistance.
Wouldn't that be great? My daughter Seda helped me one summer with work, and it was like the most productive time I've ever had. I was just blown away by how much faster I could work with having somebody to help me cut things out and
I don't know,
prepare things, you know.
I remember, Patrick, though, in the lead up way back when, you had a whole summer of like collage parties and people come help do gluing for those large pieces, and I felt really lucky to be part of it. And it was like we weren't your assistant, but it was like, oh, we had an excuse to hang out with Patrick once a week and help glue stuff down. It was like, if I was being paid to do that, it would be a really different experience. Even though it's like you were in control of the work, it was nice to, the way that you garnered help was really interesting.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic for sure than like having somebody on payroll or whatever. Well, maybe we need to get a craft night going again and make some big art.
Post COVID.
Post-COVID.
Yeah.
Send us all home with little baggies and we cut at our house.
Social distancing, yeah, collage night.
Yeah.
But there's like a whole conversation about labor to be had there, and I wish we had more time, because I feel like the labor you put in and the hours you put in are one thing versus like having friends and people come help versus like hiring someone. It's like there's a lot of questions in that part of the practice that I feel like we probably would need the whole hour to unpack.
Right. Yeah. It's for a different day, maybe.
Yeah, but still, it's like it's there. It's totally part of the work.
Well, before we move to our next artist and next crit, Erin, do we have any Facebook comments or questions that you want to chime in with?
We do. Michael Kennel wants to know, are you inspired by finding the books, then making the work? Or do you have a particular idea and seek out the possible publications for use?
That's a good question. I kind of seem to, gravitate towards certain aesthetics in the books that I buy. And so usually I find books that kind of line up with things that I like already, which, is typically like anatomy, botanicals, educational posters, like, weird illustration from past decades and things like that. So yeah, I usually don't go looking for something. I go and find things that are like happy accidents, kind of.
And then Derek White wants to know any influence from artist Alex Gray.
I really like Alex Gray's work a lot. I think that in a lot of ways that we're kind of trying to explore a lot of similar things with like cosmology and psychedelic culture and things like that. I think our work is I guess I would appreciate and respect his work. I don't know if I would actually say that I feel inspired by it personally, but I do love it.
Awesome. We're good.
All right.
Patrick.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to switch gears and turn it over to María-Elisa here and Cary Reader. So.
Yeah. So thanks again for inviting me. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you, Cary, about your work. So Cary is a Houston-based artist as well. And she has a couple of bodies of work that are pretty exciting that she is interested in talking to us about today. So thank you, Sarah Beth, for helping with the images. I had some technological issues, no surprise. So first here, I guess this is some of the newer work along with the other images you sent over. So Cary, do you just want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about this and some of the other work you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm kind of in a experimental stage of what I'm doing. I've been painting for a long time, but I guess about a year ago or so, I started incorporating cut paper into my work and making these kind of portal paintings. And at the same time doing works with adhesive vinyl. So I had a show at Galveston Art Center. That was the first time I used this translucent vinyl. And it's really exciting because it mimics kind of stained glass and things like that. So I guess what I'm really interested in right now is in color, light, and shadow. I'm kind of obsessed with it, actually. And I just like to get an emotional response by using different colors. The painting that's up right now is the last one I was working on before the COVID shutdown. I had to, I could go to my studio, but it's like eventually I'll have to go to the bathroom, so I'm just working at home. But this painting is one of my path paintings. The imagery I use are shadows on paths. So I kind of have three things going on. I have the paintings that I've started adding dimensional elements to. I have the painted glass portal work. So those are fused glass and laser cut panels. I know I'm making you go all over the place. So this is one of them. I had worked with fused glass a long time ago doing decorative items, housewares and things like that. And I have a small kiln in my garage, and I think I had to work at home for a while because near my studio they were building a brewery and it was really noisy. So I had, I was working at a desk and I said, what's this box of stuff down here? And it was all my old glass stuff. So I had already been doing these portals with cut paper. And I thought, well, since I'm so obsessive with, obsessed with color and light and stuff like that, I thought, how would it work if I, instead of the cut paper in the portal, to use fused glass? And so I started doing experiments with that. I did about 9 of these works. I was in the startup fair here in Houston. And so I did 9 of the works like within a couple of months. It was just really a marathon. And I didn't really have time to, I made them look as good as I could, but I still feel like I want to perfect them more because these really work great when they have a direct light source. I want to create these pools of color within the portal painting. So that's that. The other 2 you saw with, that one, that's, I had done a show where I did a staircase installation with this adhesive vinyl. So I have like 128 feet of the stuff. I mean, I got so much of that stuff left over. So one day at the studio, I was just playing around with making maquettes for sculptures that, I would love these to be huge, something that people can enter and interact with. But right now I'm just in the maquette stage and figuring out how to scale up and how to, have them lit from within. And there's a lot of things I want to do with these. So I'm excited about this. And then the glass portal ones, I want to make them better. So that's where I am right now.
Well, I definitely think that they're both really interesting bodies of work. I found myself really excited by the possibilities that these maquettes represented as well, as some of the possibilities in your glass, your fused glass works. But with the portal, the pieces that you had used the clear vinyl layover, so the kind of the frame of, sorry, Beth, if you could just go back to the slideshow briefly. Because it looked to me at first sight, when I look at it, I think of like a pup tent, and it just makes me think of like camping. And so because the other one, I know that you referred to it as a teepee, and whether or not it was modeled after one, or if it just is, the easiest word for the 3, stick structure that it references. I'm just curious if you did mention you were thinking about an interior space for people to enter into. So just wanted to know if you had any other thoughts about kind of the architectural potential of this in the large scale, or how you want to proceed even on a sculptural level.
Yeah, I mean, right before all this happened and we had to come home, I had ordered a bunch of plexiglass, thin plexiglass, and trying to figure out how I can scale up, how I can make this stable enough that it could be outdoors, because this vinyl is made for it's sign vinyl, so it's made to be outdoors. I mean, it's supposed to last for, I don't know, 5 years or 15 years, something like that. And I know that this is true because I had a window installation at Mystic Lion, and it was outside, and the things stood up for 9 months through, rain, heat, cold, everything. So, but it's, the plastic I'm using, it's this clear lay thing. It's something I used in graphic design back in the day. And it's just, it's kind of cloudy, has a cloudy cast. So I want something crystal clear. And then with the cut vinyl on top of it, and then somehow some kind of light source, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I could really see, and I can kind of see what you mean in terms of the cloudiness. When you kind of look at this image, you can see how the layers do kind of occlude what's behind it a little bit. But I really think that, you're drawing on these sort of like civic and sort of spiritual community places, and wanting to have this like you know, stained glass type effect, but have it be implementable on a very large civic scale, you know, on the staircase, as you've already done. So I like that idea. I think trying to find a way to execute it in glass might be difficult, but something that would provide that clarity with the laid over colors would be really, really beautiful, I think.
Yeah, that's something brewing in my mind. You know, to be honest, you know, right now I can't, you know, I've just gotten to the point where I can actually think about my regular work. You know, I've been doing walking around my neighborhood and doing paintings of flowers because I just I can't get there. But now I'm finally at the point where I'm like, I need to get back to doing you know, my real body of work, not this kind of play thing. But I did allow myself some time to.
I don't think that you can say, I think you have to have those moments too, though, where even if you don't see it as like what you're really doing, they're still helping you get to that next spot.
Yeah.
One way or another, it's like, I don't think you're messing up by doing those things. Because if anything,
like,
why?
Helping you get through this though too, because I don't feel like some of the problems you might have had before, they might not matter now. And I think like maybe you're painting flowers, that's still taking you back to where you were how many years ago painting the houses in your neighborhood. It's still like you're still looking. And
yeah,
so
it's
some of
definitely
the problems are on the back burner now. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it. I'm actually, you know, I know this is off the topic of art, but I'm just, you know, trying to be kind to myself and just if I need to spend the afternoon staring out the window, I'm staring out the window, and it's because, you know, it's like when you're an artist, you're like, go, 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 got to be doing stuff all the time and applying for things. And, you know, this has been like, I don't know, the universe's way of making me slow down and just, you know, relax for a while.
Well, to that point too, I feel like looking at art and making art is an experience, and we're all going through an experience right now. And so I feel like rather than business as usual, like, yeah, there's some certain comments I want to give you, but it's like, oh, enjoy that moment of like change. So
yeah.
And I think that, yeah, you're just activating a different part of your creative mind right now. And I think that, you know, there are things that you'll probably come back to with a new perspective that will probably help strengthen the work just by virtue of having gone through a different moment in your life. So now that we're on your website, this is a great opportunity. I wanted to dovetail into these portals because as I looked through some of the images on your website, I noticed that there were some of them like this one where you've added that graphic element that implies a depth that is in addition to what is, I assume, is just the overlaid paper on top of, I don't know if it's in a box, but some of them don't have that. And so I'm wondering kind of where you're coming from when you're layering your paper, and are you wanting to get that additional sort of graphic in effect of depth, of perspective, or is that just an accident of the process that's coming out as you're working?
Well, they're all painted on board, so those are laser cut boards. So the way I start is I'll do I'll make a shape, and I do this in my studio because I have some rocks. I know it sounds weird, but I have a bunch of rocks, and I just kind of throw them on my desk and see what shape they make. And then sometimes they make really good shapes, and so I'll draw out the shapes for the painting.
Like tea leaves?
Yeah, it's kind of like tea leaves.
Cary, I love that.
Leaving it to chance.
Yeah,
and then I make
so much.
Yeah, then I make the glass to to fit into that portal size, and then the glass, whatever colors I use in that kind of informs what I do with the painted part. So sometimes the glass is really there's a lot of colors in it. Sometimes it's very simple. And so I use that to decide what to do, but I really do want to create, I'm creating dimension with the portals and the back receding, but I want to create even more dimension with some of them. It just really depends on the piece. If I don't want the painting to compete with the glass. Sometimes I want the glass to be the star.
So Cary, one thing that I've appreciated in looking at these, I am a sucker for when, whether it's 2D or 3D, like sometimes I find myself looking at the shadows made on the wall, like as this additional element to the piece. It's just like, that's there, that's part of it, that it totally changes the visuals. And I do really like what you're doing. I mean, it's kind of another realm that you're getting with the shadows and the light that plays. And I think there's more ways you can explore that depth too, going forward, whether it's with a three-dimensional piece or with the layering of the glass and the laser cut boards. I'd like to see more of that, because I mean, I think that's real. Like this piece right here, I mean, look at that behind that. I mean, and seeing that in person, I think would be pretty cool, especially if it was lit correctly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my challenge, is getting them lit correctly. But I mean, I've been obsessed with shadows since in my house paintings. I mean, shadows were the big part of the painting, and this is a way of making the artwork make the shadows. So yeah, I appreciate your feedback on that.
Cary, can I give you critique and advice, or Maria, do you want to jump in?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, like getting on the critical side, like this is for it. We're friends. I can give you this. We've worked together. I do remember when you had the show at GAC and some of the portal works from then, we talked about like 3D printing. We worked out a couple of like solutions for how do you make things taut in the window. Like we found that cool material, and I still want to use it in something else. I do think like figuring out, and maybe it leads to Maria's comment on architecture, like figuring out the armature or the structure is crucial. But I do feel like you're in the right direction, especially on your flat works, by like going to glass. Like I was like, oh, go to a 3D printer, just do it with them. Like I feel like the glass is genius because you've gone to a material to incorporate that. But I think in the sculptural works, like you still need to do some work to figure out how to resolve some of those. And I know they're maquettes, but and I feel like another local artist, Monica Vidal, you remember her hives?
Oh yeah.
Making from fabric. I feel like she was in that moment that you're in now, in terms of how do you translate this to like a 3-dimensional space.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really great directions you could go. I think like that is your biggest challenge that I see, is figuring out how to resolve like taking it off of like a framed surface into like 3-dimensional space, or responding to architecture, because that's what that window installation was. It was responding to the architecture of the space. And I feel like it was successful, but I think each new space you go into is going to have like lots of challenges, and it might be great to like recruit some people who like could help with these armatures or help with that, because that's maybe a way to get over it. But I do love your creative use of glass as a way to resolve those, because I don't want to say, oh, get an engineer to build you an armature when you found your own like solution. So that's just like comment general.
Yeah, no, I do need to ask for help. That's a problem I have.
That actually reminds me of one question I did want to ask about the portal pieces. How are they displayed? Is it the laser cut board and the glass mounted and you can see the cross section? Are they enclosed where you can just see the top layer and then through to the back, or is that something you're still thinking through? Yeah,
they're it's like a box, and then there's a white board in the back, and then they're framed. And I really don't know if that's the way I want to keep doing them, because I would like to come in from the sides and the top and the bottom. So it's definitely something I'm still figuring out how to best display it and how to best show the glass and get all the the neat color interactions and things like that from it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Lots of work to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, and I think I would agree with Dennis. You have a really good understanding of space and light. So I think you can get there with the 3D work. It's just figuring that out. To me, there's a flatness that happens with the 3D work and like a kind of a blocking of the light in some ways that I'm not quite feeling these. And like, I think I love the way these feel so fluid. And like you're letting movement happen with them. And I think you do it with the sculptural work too. It's just figuring out how you translate that.
Yeah, I saw a show by, do you know Doho Suh? He does the big installations. He's a Korean artist. I
Mhm.
saw he had a big show in DC. We were in DC, and I just love what he does. I mean, it's different, but it's still the same concept. It's
It's like luminosity.
human size. I think it's really the scale is what I like about his stuff.
Cary, when we can go back out, like it's maybe a more pedestrian like place to visit. I hope it's still there, but in the med center, it's like surrounded by hospitals. Let's not go there now. But there's this great church that has this amazing pointed structure that's like completely stained glass. And I feel like I want to go there with you.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, because I feel like looking for ways of like thinking about architecture and space and light and glass and color. Like I feel like there's even places in our own neighborhood to see.
And I think also looking at those architectural, which I'm sure you do already, but that's very similar to these works we've been looking at, like the portals. That whole idea of like it's this glass and light entry exit points that are happening in a greater structure. And so that would probably help also envisioning with the 3-dimensional work.
Yeah, I definitely, that's where I've been headed for a while. It's just, just doing it. It was funny. It was last week, somebody, I forgot who it was. Everybody was agreeing that she should go bigger too with her works. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name, but yeah, it's definitely the dream and something I will be working on. But yeah, Dennis, let's go check that thing out.
Yeah, and you should make some public art. Like I think.
Yeah, no, I would like to.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of potential in terms of new architectural spaces being created with your ideas, but also adornment, like the stained glass. So I think there are lots of really good directions for you to explore. And I think once your armatures are tight, that'll really be a great point for some of those maquettes to really come into their own. So I look forward to seeing that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, me too.
Well, Patrick and Donna, do y'all have anything y'all want to chime in with?
Yeah, I think Patrick's trying to talk, but he's muted.
Hey, Patrick, we'll come back to you after Donna, since Donna's unmuted. She beat you.
I'm unmuted, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, you can go. You're deep into comment.
Well, deep in. Yeah, I was just wondering if you have been thought of or looked into like adding light to these pieces, like internally or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. I have one that I got some, what are those little strips? LED
the LED strips, yeah.
And I just couldn't get it to work. I really need to I need somebody who knows a little more about light.
I literally was going to say exact same thing.
Confer with them because I have one that I did that I don't have on my website because I'm still not happy with it, but it's using the vinyl in the portal instead of glass, and it really needs to be lit. And so I had it lit, but I guess the LED little battery pack took up half the back of the painting. Anyway, It was just kind of complicated, but that's definitely something I'm thinking about. So
like this stuff you like light your like TV up with, so your living room.
Exactly, that's what it is. It's stick on, and you just
like the LED rope, like the rave rope.
Yeah.
So, like you got to be careful about getting gimmicky with that. Like, I mean, it's a cool thing, but I feel like you got to be real careful with it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I was just going to say, like, I think you would need to take a very, very, very light hand. And I think down to the point where, like, right now with LEDs being where they are, like you are able to choose from a really, really broad spectrum of nuance, different whites, warmness, coolness. And I think I wouldn't really go in the direction, although I do love those shifting LED lights. They're awesome. I would really go more in the direction of what's the exact right tone and how much of it do I need? Because I just think these need the lightest touch and they really will be beautiful, but it would be really easy to go overboard, I think.
I agree with that, María-Elisa. And I was just going to throw in, like, I might be able to help you with some of that. I've done a lot of work with LED lights. So reach out.
Awesome. I'll cut out some collage stuff and
Or you can really
trade.
I feel like I can counter that with the, like, maybe it's not the tech or the the thing you add to the piece about other than like where the piece is, because I feel like you can find light in a space because you've used windows to illuminate your work. And I don't know if you need to be conforming to a white gallery wall as you think about that. I feel like I think you can find light other places, like looking more at space than looking at light, because you're just adding another variable that's going to just like distract you from really making the work, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's why I stopped doing it. It was making me crazy.
Save it for karaoke night.
I wanted to go back to painting and making stuff.
In Craft, Texas, when it was at the Craft Center in 2018, there was a piece by Karen Woodward that was in a box mounted on the wall, wood with a cutout with flame work glass and an LED light inside of it, and it was color shifting because that was what the artist wanted, or it was no, it was just blue actually. So, but she had the option to choose. If you can buy one of those, you can choose any color you want. But yeah, I think that as well, just like Dennis said, like natural light could make this just as effective as the right LED.
Yeah, these, especially the one that's on the screen, when the light comes through my studio, the perfect time and the perfect light, it's just like, oh, you know, it's exactly what I want.
That's beautiful, like marking a time of day, like setting it up to where the shadow it reflects or the time it captures light, like play with that. Like that seems very more like the way that you're observing in your painting practice too.
Donna, we're gonna let you jump in real quick. I think you've been trying to.
Sorry.
You gotta throw yourself in there.
I was just gonna make a bad joke. I was gonna say you could just really go all the way and do like a strobe light and then have a crazy loud soundtrack as well.
I like
Disco ball too.
Well,
oh man, that would be cool.
With Donna and Patrick on the experience you're looking for here. So awesome. Erin, we're gonna chime you in here. Do we have anything on Facebook you want to share?
Yeah, so a lot of people actually really like the portals, so I think they want you to continue working with them, but just maybe consider the materiality and using a different material. Some people did ask, like, how do you choose colors? So you mentioned how you throw rocks and it comes to canvas, but how does the color come into play? And like, how do you choose your colors?
I have a stock of fused glass supplies at home, and I just, so I do all that here. And just, well, I teach color theory at Art League, so I'm always thinking about colors, which colors, you know, work or harmonious, which ones, you know, are, I don't know, I'm blanking out. You think I would know being a color theory teacher, but anyway, color interactions, that's what I was trying to say. And so that's, and I'm kind of limited by, I'm trying to use up the glass that I have. I mean, there's a bunch of different colors I could use, but I'm just trying to, you know, like rein it in a bit and use what I have. So I just, anything that's going to be kind of have a luminosity to it, that's what I use mainly. So.
And I did want to chime in. There was a show at the Renwick Gallery a few years ago called Wonder. There was all these really large scale installations, but a lot of them were very colorful. And a lot of them actually didn't really use gallery lighting, they used natural lighting. So I think even maybe thinking about that for your work or looking at that show, I think would be a really great thing to do. But there are like these really large scale installations, variety of mediums, very colorful, but it kind of reminded me of the portal sculptures that you've been making. So I wanted to chime that in.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Those can like help guide some of your decisions even to what to apply for, because Cary, you're applying for everything, and it's just like look for places that have window projects. Like,
I know
that have really great light, because everyone's applying for these like box shows, and it's like, yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I'm trying to find places with good windows. That's
my goal. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stop screen sharing, and we're gonna go to our last victim of the night. It's gonna be great. So Dennis, take it away.
Okay, give me a minute. Oh wait, up next, Donna. Pardon me for ruining this. Suleymanova.
Suleiman, you're close.
Okay.
It's all good. I get it all the time.
I'm gonna pull up your work samples first, or do you want to start with your video?
We can start with the work samples. The video is more recent.
Okay, great. Let me know if this works.
Cool.
So tell us a bit about yourself and this work.
Yeah.
And you can tell me to advance or go back.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Donna. Thank you guys for tuning in. I used to live in Texas. I currently live in Philly. So this is some work I actually had at an art league show called Teenage Cream along with Alex Guillen that happened in January. So this is some of my more recent stuff. This piece is called Venus, and it's, I think, like about 5 feet, 5 or 6 feet. And it's foam, rubber, epoxy putty, and ceramic. And then you can advance the next piece. I can just talk about that briefly. And this is part of a triptych I had in that art league show. I think that's the only image I attached. Yeah. But these are some ceramic and also paper, a little bit of paper collage. Rejection emails that I received from open calls and jobs that I've applied to since moving to Philly. Yeah, this one is, I think, just some gallery in Philly. And the next one is a very large bar of soap on like a plaster soap dish that's attached to the wall. I think that piece is about like 3 feet or 4 feet or so. And then if you were to advance, and then this is a hand paper thong, and it's slightly larger than an average thong. And the hanger is made out of plaster and aluminum foil. So yeah, that's some of the more recent work. So I guess I kind of, maybe I'm all over the map in terms of like material and the things I like to play around with. I also do a lot of like video and performance, but a lot of that show was more sculptural and like mixed media. So I've kind of, after taking a very long break from making art, tried to jump back into some video and performance stuff. So this is, and I recently made this new video that is loosely like a jump off of the Venus razor sculpture. And we don't have to watch the whole thing, but if you want to just play part of it.
I think we should watch it. I was watching it. Is that okay, Donna?
Yeah, that's fine too. I don't know how we are in time, but yeah.
Like you need to watch it from the beginning and watch it through.
Give me 1 sec to try to get it full screen.
Because I think, Donna, what I love about your work is there's like just this kind of kick-ass vulnerability to like your medium, but also your subject matter. And I think like the whole, like watching the video from the beginning, like through will like help convey that. I think it's cool. So let's do that.
Are y'all full screen? Got it.
Yeah.
That's really great.
It's so
Thank
good.
you for sharing
really
like
cool.
the work in progress with us to start. Like, I know it's hard to like throw something out raw to a group. That's really great. But I want to start with saying like there's been some epic moments of artists in bathtubs, and I'm glad that you're part of that group. I'm thinking of like Shannon Duncan locally with a piece she had in the Big Show. Also Instagram fame John Derriere. I love that like sort of personal vulnerable moment of like being in a bathtub with you. I think that was really wonderful. Yeah.
Or George Bush shower painting.
Oh yeah.
How could we forget?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, and shaving your legs too, because there's like, yeah, there's like a lot to unpack in that. And I think, yeah, that's, I really enjoyed seeing that. And I didn't watch it till just now because we're not performing, we're experiencing it. So tell us about that. Like what brought you to making that work? Because I know I'm familiar with you from your show at Art League, but also I saw pieces you did at Box 13 Art Space. And I loved like the way that you use video and objects together. And like, this seems like a little bit of a twist on that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess with this video, I feel like I haven't made a video I liked in like at least 2 years. So I just wanted to at least like have the freedom to like play around and do something weird and just kind of go for something. Yeah, I feel like after especially like the Art League show, I kind of just took a long break and didn't really think about making stuff for a while. And so it was kind of, I don't know, just trying to like jump in and like stop overthinking it and just do like a weird thing and just like, I don't know, not get too like caught up in my own head about it. And then, yeah, I guess I keep trying to find interesting ways to like use video and sculpture and like just oscillate between the two. And sometimes that like manifests in like the videos being within sculptures or sculptures being props in videos that like I wear. And so in this case, I just made some more like little foam sculptures that look pretty much exactly like everyday objects, like those weird toe things. And then just like a foam razor.
Those were really great. That was like a really kind of like humorous moment in it for me. Like I was laughing, like your toes wiggling with the like animation showing up on the toenail polish. It's like, it was nice because it was like personal, yet there's like humor there too, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
Donna, I want to follow up with that. I think right now, like what you're doing is really important, just exploring and like seeing where work takes you. And I also love that it's picking up, kind of continuing from a body of work of something like, hey, what if I now took it here? Kind of like your comment for Patrick, like, has he ever considered stop motion with some of the pieces, you know? And I think it's really cool when you see, oh, cool, we're seeing some of Alex's shots there too. I think it's really cool when you can start to see some of that mix of the different materials that you're using and also the different process. But I agree with Dennis, like the kind of touchable, tactile quality to everything that you were doing is just so visceral. And I think it was great. I mean, I wanted to see more of it. I wanted like the sound, everything, but like kudos for not putting music over it. Don't do that. Like we just need to hear the water and stuff like that.
I feel like I always end up putting some like corny soundtrack, so I really had to stop myself there.
Do that for yourself and your friends, and then do the other one for the show. But yeah.
I really loved how you were basically using the same material, you know, the paint or the green screen effect to both obscure and adorn yourself. There was that sort of erasure that happened and the reflection of yourself and then the adornment of the toes. And so this very like fetishized ritualistic practice that really speaks to a lot of our experience who grew up having those expectations on us in one way or the other. And my question is, you know, that is a ritual that is sort of begun and then completed. So what, if anything, do you think might be how you could go forward? You know, do you wash it off? What does that look like? You know, what happens after you shave, you know, in this video concept that you're working through?
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of like, I think I struggle with that the most when I try to make videos, because I think a lot of video artists that I like maybe have like longer narratives, or like videos that are longer where more things happen with like more characters or more props and like weirder backgrounds. And I find myself struggling to like make longer video work, even though I think I want to in like theory, but I like the like short, like almost 3 minute, like, I don't know.
Like a vignette, like you're kind
Yeah.
of dropping in and seeing somebody's private bath time ritual.
Yeah, where it's like something that just can be played on a loop is what I usually gravitate towards, but I've always been interested in like maybe making more narrative stuff.
I'm like invading your Venmo channel a bit.
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
Is that okay? Because
Yeah.
the shopping ones are brilliant. Like when I first saw these, I was like, what? These like touch on so many great things. Like,
Which
yeah,
one? The shop
the shopping videos and the shop till you drop. Yeah, that was just like, they're really funny because it's like it comments on like, you know, consumer culture, but all the objects are a little bit like clumsy. Like they're not like I've made perfect replicas of Louis Vuitton purses, but there's something really amazing about, I don't know, the way that you've chosen to you know, work like very skillfully in video, but like having, you know, leaving it rough, like how you leave something rough and unresolved to where it's still like very approachable. And like, to me that adds humor, but it also adds like, I don't know, there's something great with that. I'm like a loss for words, so I'll pass it.
Donna, I want you to talk a little bit about how you're deciding, because you and Alex did a great job with this in your show. How are you deciding like to transition between media, and like how are you kind of coaching yourself through that and not getting stuck on one particular process or media like focus? I mean, if you can talk a little bit about that, because it was a really interesting show. Everything from like there were actual cookies in the show by Alex.
Oh, the show?
Yeah, well, I mean, but just in general, like your work, because I think that plays into the video piece too.
Yeah, I don't know, sometimes I like blindly make decisions without thinking about them, and sometimes I get like really in my head about it. So I guess, I mean, I can't really speak for Alex's work, but I was thinking about the like underwear. I also have some boxers in the show that goes with the thong. And I had been working in ceramics a bit too, but so there was like, I was finding connections between materials, at least in like the things I was working with. There was like the ceramic blades in the Venus, the razor head. And then there's like a ceramic hanger that's holding the boxers. So I guess, I don't know, I mean, I'm really interested obviously in like craft materials, not like really interested in working in wood and metal, but I like ceramic and paper and foams and rubbers, things that are like soft sculptural. I also had to like logistically ship them to you guys from Philadelphia. So I couldn't have them past like a certain weight. So that was also a restriction I had to work with, because I just took it on as a carry-on Southwest. Yeah, so some of those decisions are like for practical reasons and some are for other reasons, but I don't really know how to answer that sometimes, because I just do what feels right.
I think it's, even with the logistical considerations, asking some interesting questions about materiality in the everyday. And some of the things that you've done remind me of the work of Audrey Legale, who's based in San Antonio, but was an artist at the Craft Center. And she was working in porcelain, forming these like household items like hangers, like chairs, like plates, and using plaster for the hanger and using paper for the underwear really makes me sort of think a lot about, you know, ephemerality in your material choices, but also how a lot of these items are made out of ephemeral materials, insofar as the plastic hanger won't last very long, but it'll be in the dumpster forever. And so I'm curious about, you know, logistical understanding side, like how that kind of understanding, is it informing you know, the work that you're making, or is it sort of the main consideration is, you know, the shipping and the logistics at this time?
You're talking about the hangers?
Yeah, and I mean the paper and sort of the shelf and sort of the soft sculpture materials that you're using as well.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the hangers, like I think I just like to make stuff myself. I don't really like using things that I find because they don't look as funny as when I try to remake them almost the same exact way, but like way worse. So I just like, obviously like seeing my hand in these things, and like also the kind of like sort of stupidity in trying to remake an object almost like the same way that you see it. It's also kind of like funny to me. And it lets me like play with scale a little bit, which I think this show definitely, I tried to push myself to do more. I feel like I end up working in like a similar scale to the underwear, but I tried to like scale it up sometimes and scale it down. Or even the underwear, it's like slightly too large for my own body, so it looks like a little odd. Like it's not big enough to be like funny, but it's not quite exactly the scale it should be. So I also enjoy that like weird in between.
I think there's like a certain attention to detail with those things that's really great. Like where it's like, that's a distinction from Audrey Legally, whose work I love. She was at the Craft Center. Her objects talked a lot about, like they came kind of from a different place, but I do think like with yours, especially like this piece that I pulled up, it's like, if you make the hanger for the boxer shorts, it's like you almost have to start making the hanger for the wall too. Like the installation consideration, I think like you could push it even like one step further with like even as far as making the nails in the way that you make the boxers and the hanger. That would, I think, push it even further.
No, I feel that. I was like a little hesitant when, like, I like those hooks because I thought they were funny and like weird BDSM, but
yeah,
I also like, I think it would be maybe a little more like put together if I made it myself.
Yeah, Donna, I remember that with your install, that you were very particular. Like I even asked you, like, do you want to use a different install method or do you want us to paint it or anything? You're like, no. Like this is exactly how it needs to look. But I like what Dennis is pointing out there. I think there's some potential there to kind of take it a little further.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of consistency in the world that you're building, and especially seeing now the way that your videos really do combine, you know, your sort of sketchlight drawings, your loose work, and the sort of, you know, patched together seeming imagery. The consistency is there, and I would almost say, yeah, like Dennis said, like just fully enter into it, because then you can create an immersive environment that's commenting on the real thing that it's a facsimile of. It's so recognizable but so distinct. Like I think it would add a lot if you just went the whole way through with it.
Mm-hmm.
like start making the buttons for your shirts, please.
I mean, it would be really.
Where did you make the ceramic buttons for your shirts? And I was like, okay, like yeah. I mean, but like extreme with it.
Donna, what video are you going to make next? Do you know?
I have no idea. I'm still like figuring out how I feel about this one, or how it could possibly like live in a space if we ever get to a gallery space at any point.
If not, you always have your bathtub.
If not, yeah, I was on it.
Yeah, but that's like the beauty of like video in this moment though too, is like, I mean, I think all of us need to start thinking about having a dedicated video page on our site. Patrick, start making animations. Cary, animate it. Like we just need to like all make a little bit of video now, because I feel like the video format you're working with, even though it could be presented in an installation type of way, like I feel like you can, I mean, what a dream, send a file to a space, they'll show it, you know, or to a virtual space. So
cool. Well, any questions from Cary or Patrick for Donna?
I really like the bathtub video a lot, and I was thinking about why it feels so strong for me, and it starts out feeling ominous, like, oh God, she's got a razor, she's gonna hurt herself, because every time I shave, I hurt myself. And then, you know, halfway through, we see you smiling, and then your toes wiggling. It's just so, I don't know, it's just Lovely. I really like, I want you to do more bathtub videos. Those are cool.
Please.
Yeah,
Great.
for real.
I'll do
Green
all-
screen bath bomb.
Whoa.
That would be
Oh
cool.
gosh. Green screen bath bomb. That sounds like a joy to watch.
Just see what happens. Yeah.
I'll try it out. I'll run to Lush the second it's open.
Don't leave your house. Don't leave your
Yeah.
house. I'll send you one.
Order it. Order it.
Yeah.
Inside
Your
pickup.
address in the chat.
Yeah, curbside.
Googling how to make bath bomb right now.
Yeah.
Baking soda.
How you know?
Yeah.
There's a video online of somebody that makes like a 2,000-pound bath bomb and they drop it in a pool. It's
Looks. I think about that like maybe once a month.
and then I don't have a question, but I just say keep up the work, Donna. It's great. All good.
So
Thank you,
great.
guys.
Doing it.
I'm sad you're not in the Houston area anymore.
Me
Mhm.
too. It's cold out here.
Benefit from, well, but like having your voice in this community is cool. Like it's
Yeah.
nice. We were really lucky to have you, and when we did, but stay in touch.
Thank you guys.
Come back. Just come back.
No, I'm definitely like scrolling through everyone's like feeds and everyone's tanning and enjoying summer. And
Well, don't forget the mosquitoes. We have it pretty rough.
That's true.
Very true. Well, Erin, any comments or anything we want to share? Or?
Yeah, there's a comment from Maria J. Mahithia who says the phone format for your video worked really, really well. And I have to agree. I did like the phone format. I think if you would have used like a very high-tech video camera DSLR, it wouldn't have had like the same effect. But seeing it on your phone, it worked really well. And I think it really also communicated really well with your show, Teenage Cream, because I love that show. Like you and Alex did like an amazing job. I loved it. Really
Loved it.
So I love like how you use like more modern technology, kind of rough like a Snapchat or an Instagram story, and you just like turn it into this really great surreal experience. So I'm about it. Keep making them. I like the bath bomb idea. Yeah. Really good. I'm saying.
Yeah, but does Donna like the bath bomb idea?
I'm down with anything. Yeah.
Well, thank you all.
Thank
You were
you.
amazing. And speaking of, it's like practically bath time, I think, right?
I've got to clean it before I can do that.
Well, thank you all so much. This was great. I think we will be repeating this again, but María-Elisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It has been a real pleasure talking to all of you. I've had a really great time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we
Challenge
want
our
to,
viewers to, like, tell us, challenge our viewers, like, vote me off the island, vote Sarah off the island.
Which of us will be
Like, we're at the place
sacrificed?
of, like,
yes,
we're talking,
Who will
but we want
live?
you to hear the
Who will
voices
die?
here.
kick one of us off. And but we
Comments
also
are
want
constructive.
suggestions, or if there's a curator or arts organizer out there that would like to jump in on the crit, please let us know. We're a pretty friendly crit here. So
Highly recommend. They're very easy to work with.
I'm never leaving. I'm never leaving. No, yeah, please. Like,
From my cold dead hands.
Dennis and I will battle it out if we have to. Y'all watch it happen.
Live stream it.
And a quick shout out to Aaron Carty for streaming
Woo,
all of
Aaron!
Yeah.
thank you, Erin.
You're welcome. I had fun.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you all. Thank you,
You're great.
Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cary, and thank you, Donna.
Cary.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
To all of our Facebook watchers and commenters, we appreciate it. So we'll see y'all soon. Just check
Bye.
Facebook for updates.
Thanks again.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.